Hi everyone, welcome to the last episode of our season 1 of the F.A.I.L Talks. It's been a wonderful journey, and I personally enjoy discussing with inspiring people and sharing with you amazing stories. But it doesn't stop there. In our season 2, our community members will be the host. Everyone will have the opportunity to share their personal experiences and inspire others. And by everyone, I mean you who are listening to us. To close this season, I am honored to receive an amazing artist named F.A.I.L.
It feels satisfying to fail.
He proved himself through his fabulous drawings and artworks. He is a self-taught artist who creatively explores surrealism and communicates feelings through his works. And I'm happy to discuss with him today. I will let you introduce yourself for the listeners.
Yeah, thanks so much for this opportunity. My name is Favor Leo. I'm 20. I'm a 20-year-old Nigerian self-taught artist. I've been creating drawings since 2019, and I'm also a college student, and I'm still in school as well. And for me, like art has been pinnacle of my life from when I finished secondary school. So like I have had enough time to develop my skills from then. So like it's been like a great journey with ups and downs as well.
Do you have a specific time to start drawing? From the start, you started posting your draws and
Yes, I started sketching around late 2018, early 2019. I started drawing my favorite celebrities with like a HB and 2B pencil. And following that timeline, I was just doing it for fun. I was just having fun, learning the basics as well. And from then, I started posting my works on Instagram around June 2019. And I began to build my Instagram page. And I mostly started with portraits of people, human beings, faces, celebrities, and all. And it was not up till 2020 when I did a discovery on Salvador Dali, that's father of surrealism. And I got hooked on how I can like express my own thoughts and feelings through that medium. So I kind of changed. I really changed my art style around 2020 and I started drawing for imagination. Took a lot of work and a lot of practice, but I eventually got a hang of it. So like 2020, like I started really doing my own art, but it was strictly on Instagram because there was no like really anything like NFTs then, or I didn't really have an idea. And
yeah.
so it was just me posting my drawings for people to see. It's like an exhibition.
Okay, so we'll come back to this period. And as I said in the introduction, you are self-taught artist. So I wanted to ask you, how did you taught yourself to draw? Since you didn't start when you were a child, so you were already young.
Yes.
Where was the medium you used?
Yes, the main reason why I was able to keep up with learning was because I had a passion for it. So I started with the fundamentals of drawing. That was when I really got serious with it. I was reading art books on how to make perspective, proportioning, light and shadow techniques. In order for me to be able to draw from my imagination, I should be able to master these things so I can make realistic works without even looking at a reference. And so from looking at books, reading art books, I was also watching videos on how to draw certain type of things, certain type of structures and geometry and perspective drawings as well. So like that really boosted my skill sets. And I was also learning the psychological aspect of it as well, how to translate ideas from my head to paper and how to use my thought process to make artworks as well, how to tie it to my drawings and how to pass the message across the description. So like it was basically me looking and researching and teaching myself all these things without going to school for it. Because as a student, I'm a science student, so like I study beauty technology. So it's way, way, way different from what I do as an artist.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that. Like it's, as you said, it's way different from the art industry. And as you just said, you went to videos, you read articles, and maybe it wasn't your purpose, and it sent you to the universe of, let's say, surrealism drawings without you even knowing that at that period, since you checked for articles about psychology of drawings, as you said.
Yes, exactly. Like it wasn't really a planned or intentional thing. I just saw myself doing it. Like I was just going along with the flow of it and it was fun. I saw everything as being fun and I was willing to learn and I found it exciting as well. So when I did my readings on Salvador Dali, I was already interpreting images in my head, but the only challenge was how to draw these images on paper, how to make them into drawings. And that was what led me to like learning the fundamentals of art itself.
You were doing, but at the same time, your school
I studied building technology, and it's my
building
yeah, and I'm
technology.
on my third year already, and I've been doing both, and it's been a whole lot of work, but I've been juggling both of them together.
Right now, do you see yourself in the future in this industry, or you want to become an artist and then be self-employed?
Yeah, currently I'd say I would try my best to do both if I can. But if I were to choose one, I would definitely choose being an artist because it's my life purpose and it's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me going as well, yeah.
I saw that you are doing music as well. And what does music represent to you?
Yes, music is funny enough is like also one of my passions. And I've always naturally been a creative person. So I've always wanted to explore other creative aspects of life. And to me, music is another way of expressing my artistry. Might not necessarily be a real life event, but creating a scenario, creating a story through music, through rap, through songs. I've always found this intriguing, and when I had the opportunity to actually make my own music, I didn't even think twice about it.
Okay, so you don't imagine yourself doing music as a job.
I actually see myself doing everything I can do, everything I think I can do. If I can be an artist that draws full time, I can also be a musician that makes music full time if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, are there any similarities between music and your art in your maybe your drawing process or I don't know your creativity?
Yes, there are many similarities because I am also a writer. So like I tend to write ideas before even implementing them. You know, like when I'm writing a song or writing a lyric or writing a poem or something similar, I can compare it to writing an idea for a drawing or let's say like an image I have in my head and I'm trying to make a written description of it before I allow like translate it into like art or translate the lyric into a song on the beats or like on the recording. So like the similarities for me is being able to write about both aspects and using that writing to like create something from them. So yeah.
And do you have a specific day where you are doing music, another day where you are doing art, or in the same day you can do everything?
Yeah, I'm not really a rigid person when it comes to arts generally. So like there are days where I would want to do more of arts and I will do that. And there are days where I would want to do more of music. And there are days where I will do just one of those. And there are days I won't do any at all. So like I just really sit down. Like when I have inspirations, I just tend to act on them immediately. So like if it's arts, fine. If it's music, fine. But I do more of arts now because that's what I can get much of my head on right now. So music for me is like something I'm building slowly.
We can already see that you are really creative and you sing, you draw, you write, and it's led me to ask you what is your inspiration process? How do you get inspired?
Um, so I'm going to break it down for arts, for artworks, for drawings. I get inspired from emotions because I've not really had the easiest of lives. So like I get inspired from pain. So I use more of the pain to like create ideas in my head. And most of my drawings are quite emotional and dark. I'm inspired by dark fantasy. I'll say gothic gothic art, horrific gore as well. So like those things really excite me when it comes to drawing. Like, I find myself doing it naturally. Like I can't really interpret art in any other form. And I also get inspirations from dreams. I've always been fascinated by the interpretation and concept of dreams as a whole. So like they also help me make drawings. Like I get ideas from dreams and I try to document them. And I also like to explore processes behind a dream state as well. And also like other artists as well inspire me to be myself. Other artists, current artists and also the late ones as well. Salvador Dali is like my biggest inspiration as an artist. And when it comes to music, I could easily do any kind of music I want. I found because I've always been a very consistent music listener ever since I was a kid. Like my mom used to have this speaker in her room back then. So like she was always playing R&B, 90s jams, rap music and pop
Okay.
and all that. So like I found it easy. It was kind of easier for me to interpret creativity in that aspect. So like what inspires me in music is just to tell a story or to translate something that is going on in my own life or try to create an event that people can relate with. Rhyming about words or just creating lyrics or just creating rhythms with my voice as well. So like those are like my major inspirations and I see myself in other artists. Like I can be like other artists that really inspire me, like rappers like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. What are your favorite
Yeah,
artists?
my favorite musicians are Kendrick Lamar as a rapper because I rap as well. Nas, when it comes to singers, Alia, The Weeknd, and so as well, and also Kanye West. Like, yeah,
That's good taste. You just say there are many darkness in your art, and you said that sometimes it comes from your dreams. Did you ever ask yourself why you get so much inspired doing dark art?
yes. I asked myself that, and I still ask myself that to this very day, and I've not really gotten a definite answer as to why I'm always drawn to creating those kind of works. And the closest answer I could get to that is probably I have experienced some things in my past, like in my childhood, that's like stuck in my subconscious mind. So like it just keeps happening without me even being aware of. I'd say like that's the closest answer I've gotten. Probably the shows I was exposed to, the things I used to watch back then, the things that excited me back then, and also like just main real life experiences that my main consciousness cannot just remember and it just manifests itself in my subconscious memory and I just tend to like go back to it and be creative from it.
And does it lead you to document you about it, about why there is this specific type of dream that you are doing?
Yes, 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 actually. Because personally I'm a very curious person. So like I always try to learn stuff, especially stuff that bother me. So like when it comes to revelations and dreams and inspirations, I always try to like make research on them.
Let's come to your NFT journey. You said that you started with your Instagram page. There wasn't any NFT space yet. And that how did you discover the NFT space and how did you start interacting with it?
Yeah, so NFT for me started around October 2021. I saw a fellow contemporary artist got featured on OpenSea and I just I think I asked the person about the whole thing and I got information about how NFTs are being sold on several platforms and on Twitter, like how one has to be active on Twitter. So, but I didn't jump immediately into it. I didn't jump right into it because it was still all new to me. So I had to learn about crypto and Ethereum, gas fees, gas prices. I
Yeah.
also had to learn about OpenSea and how they trade their NFTs. Then I got other information about Foundation and Super Rare and one of ones editions. I was just making my own research after the information I got. So like then I think I decided some weeks later that I was going to give myself a chance because being an artist just on Instagram, it was not really sustainable financially because I wasn't doing I wasn't doing the art for money, but like I saw NFTs as an opportunity to even get appreciated financially for
Yeah.
your own creativity. And I feel like every artist deserves that. So I just took the initiative that I'm going to I'm going to explore something new and uncertain. And at the same time, there's a chance that I can succeed in it and there's a chance that I can also fail in it. So I just got into the NFT space around October, late October. And since then I had other few friends who were new as well. So I started building a circle. I started posting my previous artworks I had made since 2020 that were on Instagram. I brought them on Twitter, and people were impressed by how versatile they were. And from there, I started like the whole journey just started from there.
You said that you didn't know anything about crypto when you first discovered NFT. So there's been a journey about discovering crypto and anything about the technology first.
Yeah.
And have there been any key moments any key moments that shaped your career as an NFT artist? Like in a moment that marked you when you took a decision about it?
Yes. It was during January 2022 when I dropped my second collection. The collection was highlighting Afro hair, black hair, and it was
Yeah.
kind of personal because I, as a student, I have dreadlocks, but I've cut them recently because I want them to grow back afresh. So like I had dreadlocks then, and I always had issues with the school authorities because of how my hair looked. And because it was natural, I felt like it should be a normalized thing. So I made a series of 6 drawings, different characters, and each drawing had a different hairstyle, a black, an African hairstyle. I just kind of passed across that story, and I think I got a follow and a retweet from the platform I minted the NFTs in, and it got exposed. Like there was an exposure to it, and I made my first significant sale then, and the collection got sold out in like that week. So that was when all the attention that I never thought I would ever had started becoming like a real thing. You know, I started getting a lot of followers, people questioning how I made my works. Then also my previous works as well were now like being looked at. And
Yeah.
for me, that was a turning point in my life, in my art career, generally self of NFTs, because um just not the fact that that was the first time I actually made money from my creativity, but like I actually saw myself inspiring a larger amount of people. So since then, things begin to flow extremely well for me as well. Then I had other had other collections. I had other collections on Foundation, and I was just selling out constantly. So like obviously things were going well from that turning point here.
Yeah, that's big. And you said that you get inspired by other artists. And from now, from your experience in the industry, does the NFT space have an influence over the way you draw your work now?
Yes, definitely. I normally follow a few artists because of how they express themselves, not necessarily copying their type of works, but how they pass their story, their art voice. If I should mention a few names, I'll say Tijo, Adewale Mayowa, very Nigerian artist. And I think those are
Yeah.
like the two most inspiring figures for me in the NFT space. And they've actually influenced not just my art, but how I also like tell my story.
Yeah, I can tell you because I wrote 2 articles about them. So yeah, they are really great and incredible artists. And when you want to draw a new art, do you have a specific routine? What is your creative process?
I have different processes, but there are a few. I think there's one I normally follow frequently where the instance of me getting an idea, either from a dream or from a thought process, and I sketch the idea raw. So like there's a style I call surrealism. It's a self-named, it's a self-created style where an artist will just draw anything, any shape, any form, any figure that comes to their head without limiting themselves. So like at that moment, when I get this idea, I just sketch them down, and then I make writings about them, either like a poem or a description of a place, or like a fantasy place, a fictional place, a description of a situation or of an event in my life, and I try to attach it to the piece. And from there, it becomes a substance. It becomes it creates a life in the piece. Like the piece itself becomes alive. And from there, I either pick up a sketchbook or a cardboard paper or a normal like white paper, and I start making the real drawing along the way, not necessarily sticking to the original sketch, but using the original sketch as a guide to create something that has the same substance as the sketch. So like my creative process is the idea, sketching it, writing about it, and then making the drawing as well. And also naming the drawing too. I tend to name my pieces before I finish them.
Till when did you start writing?
So I've been writing since I started drawing, but way back before when I was like an early teen, I used to write short stories, such short fictional stories. And my big writing break was around 2020 when I started writing a book, and I'm still working on the book till now. It's not done. It's a grim dark fantasy story. It's a novel, and 2020 was when I started writing it. I also learned how to read other novels, learned how to create character, plots, descriptions, word building, this thing, events, catastrophe, dialogue, action scenes, and so on. So like 2020, around April 2020 was when the whole excitement came in while I was also drawing.
You learned them all by yourself?
Yes. I learned them on my phone. I did researches. I had a lot of notes about them, and it was a really crazy process. It's something that will make one almost lose their mind, but like at the end of the day, it's worth it because now I'm already flowing with writing. Everything comes easy for me now, and I was also able to infuse the idea of writing in my arts and in music as well.
That's amazing because, yeah, as you said, it has been something challenging to manage all these things and still find a way to do art and go to school and be productive. And my next question will be about your career as a digital artist. You need to work every day, I would say, with social media. So, what has been your process in using social platform, and how do you promote your art, and how do you interact with your online audience?
Starting with Twitter because I'm being an NFT artist, digital artist. Twitter has been the main platform. So once I was able to build my audience through my major break, I realized that this is now like basically a full-time job because the whole thought of leaving and being left behind will keep one there. You would always want to appear, post your works, support other artists, retweet other artists, just be genuinely supportive, post your works, show your works as often, tell a story, show your works, your voice, not necessarily even posting the work, but like writing about them, indulging in conversations with other artists, Twitter spaces as well. And also on Instagram, I also like putting out my works there because Instagram has a wide range of audience, not just like NFT artists or NFT enjoyers, but like no like general people can see your works, and there's also a way to like appreciate your stuff, and from there you can also get more eyes on your works. So promoting my works has been a real showing up every time thing for me. There are times I take breaks for like being resilient. I think resilience has been the main drive for me using social media because it can be very exhausting. But at the end of the day, it's a process we all have to go through in this journey as a digital artist, NFT artist, or an artist in general. So like my way of promoting my works has always been coping with the fact that I have to show up as much as I can and help other people as well on the platforms, on the social media platforms.
And did you have some times where you think you did some mistakes, or you think you were quite good at marketing yourself?
Yes, I think I speak for many or majority of the artists when I say marketing is not really our thing, and the idea of marketing is just exhausting because we just want to make drawings, we just want to create art. So there was a period when I got really tired of the idea of, marketing yourself, trying to get collectors to notice your works, trying to get your works in exhibitions and galleries. Like at that period, I just wanted to make drawings and let people see. And I won't really say it's a mistake, but there were consequences because I kind of lost my footing and things went downward for me at that time. So like the exhaustion from social media, the exhaustion from despite saying I want to be showing up every day, like the exhaustion of the idea of just marketing and not really doing the arts just really made me backslide a bit from the whole thing. And definitely there were consequences.
Okay, that's something really interesting to hear from you. And right now, I will talk about your hair. You said before that your hair are also a way for you to express yourself. And you said that you did an NFT collection
Yes.
Do you think that you have a personal relationship with your hair? It's just like another weapon for you to express yourself.
The idea of growing long hair has actually been exciting for me since when I was a kid, but I couldn't then because of, you know, various limitations. But like when I noticed that I could grow really long hair, and I have a type 4C hair that normally twists itself. So it like turns to like dreadlocks eventually. So I
Okay.
just look at my hair as a symbol of strength because not everybody really wants to go through that process or be patient enough to watch their hair grow that long. So like for me, my hair is a really personal thing to me, and I will only cut it whenever I really want to cut it. I wouldn't cut it because I am pushed or forced to do so. So like it's a symbol of strength and power for me, and I'm very sentimental about my hair. So it's also a way of expressing myself because I got influenced his hairstyle
Yeah.
and also the way he had his reformed dreadlocks. So like I see myself as being expressive in that way as well. It's like performance arts, yeah.
And do you think every black people should feel that way with the hair, or is it something that just proper to you?
Well, I feel like there should be no discrimination towards black hair. And I feel like every black person should understand the roots of their hairstyles and embrace it if they want to embrace it. But it's not a must to grow long hair. It's not a must to keep long hair. But if you want to, then we should realize its significance in history, in our history, and also be among the people that are striving for its normality in workplaces, in schools and institutions, even here in Africa as well. There's always been a discrimination towards black hair, and there's always a stereotype attached to it. So like I feel like every black person should know the importance of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so if you want to, fine. But if you don't want to keep long hair, fine. But you should just know the importance of it. I feel like it's very important for us as a whole.
My next question for you is something that I ask to every person that comes to the field talks. What's your personal definition of failures in life?
Well, failure comes when a certain aim, a certain goal is not being achieved. Because for you to fail at something, you have to want to get that thing. You have to define that thing. It has to be something you want to get before you fail at it. So failure for me is not being basically or literally is not being able to achieve certain goals either in the short term or long term. And at the same time, I feel like for successful people or people that have made it in life, failure is existent and still non-existent in the sense that they experience failures, but they don't stop while experiencing failures. They always find a way to keep going as whatever they are doing. So like when you don't give up, then failures just become like a mark or like a path for you to follow to your own success.
And how do you manage failures in your artistic career?
Yes, this is a very interesting question and very relatable one. Every artist definitely face failures. I myself have had major setbacks, from rejections from galleries, rejections from platforms, some artworks not really hitting the way I wanted them to hit. Also other obstacles, minor obstacles as well. And handling them had happened to me but in stages. I'll say in stages because when I was handling rejection can be quite painful. But whenever I go through that phase, I just remind myself of my purpose as an artist. I want to create drawings that people can relate to, that can change people's lives, that can inspire people. So the rejections do not define how good my works. The setbacks do not define how talented I appear to be. Does not define the bigger picture for me. So like dealing with failure has always been exhausting, but I always find a way to be persistent. And persistence is like major key for anyone going through failure. Just trying, even if there is no reason to try, there's no any other reason to try. Just try and experimenting, and eventually you find your way.
Had there been some moment for you as an artist where you doubted yourself, or the rejection always comes from the outside?
External rejections kind of influence my own internal confidence about myself. There are key
Okay.
moments where I literally lost confidence in my works. I think those were moments where I felt like the world was no longer watching. I felt ignored. I felt like it wasn't the way it was, like it wasn't hitting the way it was. And definitely rejections from platforms and galleries had always put a dent in me, like, because I began to wonder, like, is my art that weird? Is it too weird for people to understand? Is it too strange or is it too scary? So like I've always had these doubts there, but on the limelight, I still try to remind myself of my purpose, and I think that's been the driving force.
And since then, have there been some people that came to you and discussed with you about things that they were also dealing that were maybe similar to you?
Yes, I've had many friends who go through the same phase, especially fellow artists, and we've had many conversations, group conversations. Sometimes we even turn it to fun, but like the struggles of being an artist, the struggles of putting so much effort, because nothing will humble you than failing at what you are passionate about. Putting so much effort into a work, putting so much effort into a piece, putting so much effort into the ideas and creation of that piece, and the returns becomes way below par, way less than expected, way less than it should even be, and that humbles any artist. It puts you in a very tight spot, like, okay, maybe I'm not as good as I want to be yet, or maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. So it's either I try harder or I give up. So it's a really tough battle. And I have given up a few times. I have gone days, weeks without making artworks, mainly because of the idea that it's no longer working. But as soon as I get back to it, I find my footing again. So yeah, I have certain friends, a lot of friends, artist friends that go through similar phases, and they also discuss how they deal with their own failures as well.
Yeah, that's the right mindset. And I think that that's important to have a group of friends, as you said, to discuss about it and not be alone in your own journey.
Yes, exactly.
My next question will be about your, let's say, your daily life. How do you find a balance between all these different things that you do? And how do you manage the pressure of constantly working on new projects?
So definitely there's always a pressure from everywhere. And at the beginning, I had always been a perfectionist. So I always wanted to do things when I wanted to do them. So that always led to burnout. So I even end up not even doing much. And my daily life, going to classes, reading for exams, I think it depends. It depends on my current situation. When I'm in school, I tend to focus more on school because I have to read, and but at the same time I never neglect the arts. Any little time I have, I find I make sure I do something. I make sure I draw. Any little time I have, I make sure I write. I make sure I compose something creative every day. And it may not necessarily be everything, but if in a day I can either draw or write or make music or make a line or a word play, for me that's enough based on my current situation in school. But when I'm on vacation, when I'm on holidays, when I'm at home, I tend to focus heavily on my creative side. I work extra overnight sometimes to make sure I create art or create something creative, and tend to focus less on school. So like for me, finding that balance now depends on the current situation rather than having to do everything at once, no matter where I am or no matter situation. Nowadays, I just tend to stick to where I am and try to do what I can as much as I can.
And you said that sometimes you had burnout from working too much, and you already said that it already happened where you already gave up. How did you get up from this moment?
It was very hard for me to find a way to go about this, but when I eventually did, I realized that taking some time off creativity has helped me find my way back to it. Taking some days off, taking some weeks off, just living life outside being an artist. Even though I still have ideas in my head, but like living life outside actually creating these things is refreshing. So my major way of coping when I'm having a burnout is I definitely get rest. I tend to sleep more. And my other major way is video games. I play a lot of video games. Like I'm a fan of video games. So like I just stop every creative thing I'm doing and I just get lost in these worlds, and that's always help refresh my brain and also refresh my ideas as well. It's like taking some time off creativity and doing random stuff that are like exciting, or just listening to music, or just going out and doing fun stuff. Those things just create a clearer picture in my head. Even when I'm having downtimes, seeing friends, play video games and doing fun stuff outside these things has always refreshed me as a person.
I have noticed that your art is really familiar with some specific terms and lexical expressions as ghost, pain, fear, broken. Don't know if you agree with me.
Yes.
And do you know maybe why? I know that you already told us that you already have a kind of gothic art, but do you know maybe why you have this kind of expression?
Yes, I'll say to an extent, I'll say maybe I have naturally tuned myself to some dark side, like some dark parts of me. Because there was a point where my art was mainly about embracing your dark sides, like embracing the scary stuff and looking at the light in it as well. So like when I ask myself why do I always create, this kind of drawings? And the answer I get is that I have really unlocked my dark subconscious parts, like the subconscious part of myself that are dark and not really pleasant. Like unpleasant memories, unpleasant experience, dreams that happen subconsciously. My mind has been able to access just fragments of that, and that's why they are showing in my artworks. And probably that's the only way, or that's the best way my mind can like create stuff. And yes, but I've try to like not limit myself to just that. But if I'm being honest, that's my best and that's my most valuable way of creating.
Okay, that's really interesting. I will cite some of your artwork and so you can tell us more about your feelings when you were drawing them and maybe what was your message behind them. For the listeners, you will have the opportunity to check the art in the description and they will be also displayed on the YouTube video. Are you okay with it?
Yes.
The name is Melancholy.
Okay. I created the work around 2021, and my intention was
Before telling us your intention, can you describe with a few words for the listeners what the art is?
okay. The art is a piece with it's like a heart. If you look at it, there's an eye, like a
Yeah.
centralized eye, and
Yeah, personally, I didn't know if it was a heart or a
yes,
hand.
it's a heart. If you see the parts of a heart, but like it's surrealism. So like they are formed exhaust of an aeroplane or exhaust of a rocket blowing out smokes.
I see.
And also the formation of a heart formed below the eyelid is now like a palm, like a hand, a palm downward,
Yeah,
standing on a surface.
it is like the heart is projecting.
Yes, it's like releasing an energy into its environment, and that
Okay.
energy is the dark energy. Like the environment now is a surrealistic environment. There are trees and forests, and there are birds and a cloud, and behind that whole formation is like a formation of stars, like a universe, a celestial universe that has this particular heart in it. And the heart represents the soul, like the soul of a person who is going through a melancholic experience. You can see there are black tears from the eyes. The eyes look sad and it looks heartbroken as well. So while releasing this dark energy into your environment, you're also experiencing a grief, probably a loss or heartbreak. And that was the whole purpose of the structures in the drawing, just to pass across the message of melancholy.
Oh, that's dope. I send you the second one. The name is Mental Pain.
Mm. Mental pain.
Is it a tree?
Yeah, it's a tree with wide roots
Yeah.
and also has an eye. And the eyes in those drawings just represents basically a soul. Any of my drawings that has an eye means there's a soul in it.
Okay. That was my next question.
Yes. And if you look at the drawing at the top, there's like a figure, a man who is
Yeah.
distressed, His position is like he's suffering from something in his head, trying to let it out. And there are smokes around him. And the eye is just being stand by, like the eyes, not really sad, not really happy, but is going through that phase. So like the figure on top represents the mental struggles, like the mental pain itself. And then the eye represents the soul, and the tree is just like a surrealistic element. One of the elements I like adding in my works just to create an aesthetically pleasing or unpleasing or pleasant appearance. Yeah.
And that's really deep. How did you came to that art? How did you get inspired for it?
It's a long time. It's I think 2 years ago, 2021. I think at that period I was drawing on canvas and I think I was experimenting on certain emotions because throughout that period I had other pieces that were like similar to this, but I didn't really reveal them. So that was how the art came about. Exploring deep emotions, and then an idea just came up and it just happened. I just sketched it and we got to where we were with it.
We pass to the next one. The name is Light and Darkness. It's also a surreal expression.
um Light and darkness the piece is mainly a contrast. If you look at it, there's a side with butterflies and a normal eye, and if you look at the whole structure, it's like a circle, like a division of both sides, and there's also a perspective road beneath. If you look closely, it's like a road.
Is it all drawings?
Yes, it's a drawing and it's kind of old. I did around 2020, and
Wow.
if you look at the eye as a demonic eye, so like light and darkness is like merging one existence of good and bad sides in the singular body or in the singular formation, and how I was mainly trying to pass across the fact that human beings can have both sides and live with both of them, not necessarily choosing one over the other, but like finding a balance on how to deal with each and how to like live through them.
Okay. And how many years of drawing did you have when you draw this?
Just a year experience, a year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to the next one. It's called Dancing with Ghosts. It's one of my favorite.
This piece was mainly a ballet dancer, but it's like a horrific one, dancing on a rope. And if you look at her arms, it's like skulls, like a skull, like a ghost coming out of her. So it's like mainly like dancing with ghosts and also dancing with death. And it's like the whole concept of how death is uncertain and how we tend to just, hover around it. And yes, so like the whole piece is very like fun and expressive drawing. It's just one of my pieces then on canvas as well, charcoal on canvas.
And she looks also broken.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. If you look at her skin, there are cracks, breaking, shredding, should I say peeling, painful life experiences, I'd say.
and the question that is coming to me when I watch this is she happy when she's dancing or she's suffering from the ghost?
It's more of like she has been dancing for a long time, and at the beginning she was afraid of dancing, mainly like afraid of the idea of death. And then going further, she became in tune, she got used to it, and later she became happy, she accepted it. And when you accept something, it becomes a part of you. And when something is a part of you, it either makes you happy or it makes you regret. But in our own situation, she's happy for the fact that she was always afraid of it, but later on, she had embraced it as reality, as her reality. And those ghosts around her are what keep her company and what remind her that death is uncertain and she has to face it whether she is ready for it or not.
Okay, I really like the fact that you find the good words to express your heart and what you wanted to express through it. We'll go to the last one. It's named Lone Soul.
This is one of my most difficult pieces to explain to anybody because the idea was so, should I say, so imbalanced, so powerful that even finding a title for it was challenging. And Lone Soul, there's like a mushroom top. It's like if you look at the cup, it's like a mushroom. Then there are like candies hanging below it, sweet candies. Then there's an eye which represents the soul, and there's a torso, a female torso. There are eyes on the breasts, and there's an energy coming through the arms, and there's a breakable like shell beneath it with smoke. The eye definitely represents the soul, and the void in between, like the void in the chest, is like an emptiness one feels when they are like alone or lonely. And then the energy they release around themselves can be very, very potent to how they view life. So like those energies now can really affect their mental. And then the sweets, interestingly, represents the fact that you can have many things and still be lonely. You can have people around you and still feel alone. You can have friends, family, but there's something that you crave for, something that you need to fill that emptiness, that void, and it's not just there. So like the sweet represents that, and then the smoke and the shell is just mainly aesthetics for me. So yeah,
Yeah, that was a really complex
yeah, I'll
one.
say that's like one of my best ever pieces, arguably.
Yeah, welcome. So right now I will talk about another term that is coming a lot in your art. Is it's arcane. There are some work where the name is the Arcane Genesis 2024, the Arcane Ascension, the Arcane Drift, the Arcane Revelation. And I wanted to know first, is there a specific storytelling to this, or what does it mean?
These pieces happened last year. This series, this Netflix series, The Arcane, is like an animation. So I got a bit of an inspiration from it. Then I just interpreted the ideas of the meaning of arcane in different forms. And arcane is like a force where you don't really know where it's coming from. You don't really know how it is, how it came about. But it's also so powerful that it needs extent of power to like control it. So like the arcane genesis is the beginning of the world. I created 4 different worlds, but in those 4 different worlds, they are also like present in a whole general world. Like for example, on the earth, there are different places. So like the arcane genesis is where the whole thing began when the scientists like discovered the arcane and built that pyramid as a way of containing its power. But at the end of the day, it became so strong that it captured their souls and turned them into strange creatures and trapped them inside. So like that particular place was left like that for decades, centuries, and these souls are just waiting to be manifested into the realm. So that's the Arcane Drift. Yeah, that's the Arcane
Okay.
Drift. And then the Arcane Ascension was another different discovery. It's like a fence. And this particular location is titled the Black Desert. If you look at the drawing, there's like a sand, a black sand, like on the land. And then in this fence, there's now like a box, like a vase containing skulls, and those skulls represented like lost souls which were trapped in the arcane for centuries. And it was believed that this ascension of these souls were going to lead to the destruction of their world permanently. And then the fourth piece, which was the arcane revelations, had to do with the fact that finally mages and all that found a way of discovering where the arcane came from, how it was manifested. But the downside was that everybody wanted to witness its power, and they felt like they could go and witness its power. So they were now like there are 2 bridges. If you see these 2 bridges, there are people working on it, heading towards its core, because they believe that they had already found a way of containing it. So for them, it was like entertainment, like something exciting, something new. Unknowingly, there had been souls which had been transformed into creatures, and unfortunately, these creatures manifested, and they now like started flying around. If you look at the drawings, there are several creatures on the sky waiting to hunt their prey. So it's like the arcane revelation. They were trying to reveal what it really meant, but at the same time, there was consequences. And there was the last piece, the arcane divination 3045. It was now believed that this particular arcane was the answer to the afterlife, and there's like a portal, and there's a figure standing there walking towards that portal, and they believe that the answer to what really is on the other side exists in that portal. So that is the arcane divination. So like that's the brief summary of all these 4 pieces, and it was a really interesting movement. It was a really interesting period in my arts journey. I think it was also the most fun for me.
Yeah, that's interesting because it shows also that you can still get inspired from other stuffs by still staying loyal to your art, to your style. I also saw that 3 of your last artworks seems deeper, like you were trying to express more about your inner feeling. For example, your art you posted, I am the evil, combattre mon démon, and fight my evil, look more like self-introspection and narration of an inner fight. I don't know if I'm true or what were your motivations behind that?
Yes, so these pieces were like my most personal pieces, and it didn't really come as planned. It wasn't really planned. I had been watching a series, so I had this whole idea of New Orleans, and I did the research on New Orleans, and the name of the collection was Behind My Wall in New Orleans. So it's a fictional story that represents me, but like this character lives in New Orleans and has a room, like an apartment, but in this particular room is where all his demons haunt and feeds on his soul. So like these demons represent my own personal struggles with life, as not just as an artist but as a person, my mental health struggles. As piece, which was the beginning of my torments, how these demons began to torment him. And if you look at the drawing, he himself is crouching, and this particular creature is perched. The creature's arms, the creature's veins are perched on his body and are just tormenting him in that particular room. And there's nothing he can do about it. He goes to work, comes back, and faces the same thing every day until he decides to fight this demon. He decides to fight these negative thoughts, these feelings. And that was where Combatum on the One came about. And I purposely used, I didn't really use English just to make it more interesting. Combatum on the One was like, if you look at the piece, it looks identical to the first one, given the fact that it's the same room. Now he is fighting the creature. There's a sword in his hand. His clothes are torn. The creature looks badly injured, badly beaten. That image, that scene itself now proves that I am fighting my demons. Like I am finally finding ways to deal with my weaknesses, my depression. And that now led, and the whole consequence was that while I was fighting it, I didn't know I was becoming it. And that was now led to I became the demon. That was the last piece in the collection. And I became the demon now shows him on the wall with his suit, now taking the face of the demon. Because if you look at the first two drawings, the demon, the creature has this face with two red eyes, like a
Yeah.
So now if you look at the last drawing, it's now him with his hair and his suit taking the face of the demon. The room has changed, everything has changed, and there's a door. The door is what is leading to the outside world, but he's stuck in this room because he is now what he feared the most. He's now what was tormenting him. He has embodied it, and it's more of like I'm trying to get over something, but while I'm trying to get over that thing, I become that thing itself. It's like a paradox, and that was what happened at the end of the story. It's still an unfinished story, and it's something I plan on continuing later in the future.
Well, that's really interesting and fabulous. I hope more people have the opportunity to discover about it. And talking about the future, my next question will be about how do you define your personal success?
Mainly for me, the greatest part of being an artist is having other people appreciate your works, other people like relate. I've had people come to me privately to tell me how my works have changed their lives, how they see themselves in my drawings. And honestly, this is all that matters to me. This is all that keeps me going, because when things go tough, these are the things that encourage me. So like being a successful artist for me is having to inspire and influence people with your art. And it can be in many forms. It can be unpleasant and it can be pleasant. But personally for me, I want my art to remind people of their unpleasant experiences and also embrace these experiences and accept the fact that they are human beings and they can also always go through stuff. And I also want my heart to heal people and help people cope with their depression as well. And if I can do that, then if I can continue doing that, then I'll see that as me being successful. And also another part of my art is just creating fictional events, fictional scenes that will just excite and entertain people as well. So like that's the whole key of being a successful artist for me. Having people I don't know, I've never spoken to, randomly come to me and tell me that my art has really inspired them is, I think, is irreplaceable. That like the feeling can't be replaced by any other thing. So yeah.
I can imagine. That's really powerful words that you just used. And before going to the end of this great episode, what is the most beautiful failure that you experienced once in your life?
Oh,
By beautiful, I mean the one that maybe taught you the most valuable lessons till today.
failure, yes.
Yeah.
Um, it was okay. It was when I dropped the piece, like an edition piece, and none of it got picked up during the time frame, because
Okay.
there was a time frame for the whole thing to pop, and none of it got looked at and picked up. So like it was crazy, but at the same time, I learned a very big lesson there, and the biggest lesson I learned was that things won't always happen when you want them to happen, and things will always go as planned. It's like that's the beautiful thing about that particular failure. Like things will always go as planned, but at the same time, we are not really certain of what might happen next. That's why we should keep trying.
That's really interesting. I would like to thank you for this wonderful moment, man. And as a tradition in the Face Dark, I need to ask you the next person that you would like to hear in the next episode.
I'd say I have many options. I'd say we are the four. I don't know if you know him.
I don't think so.
Please, we are the four on Twitter. His hand four Ivy is a photographer. He creates conceptual photography, and he has sold his works on Super for over 4 ETH, like a single piece. So like he's a really talented individual, and his thought process is like, he's also one of the artists I look up to in this space. So maybe you should check him out. And he's also one of the most humblest people I know as well.
Okay, that will be a pleasure. Thank you for sharing, and I will contact him as soon as possible.
Yes.
And thank you, man, for this amazing episode. It was a great pleasure. I think we learned a lot from you and from your personal experiences. And I wish you a lot of success in your personal journey and what you project for yourself. I'm really happy to have you, and I hope that our listeners really enjoyed this interview. Do you have one last sentence for your community?
Well, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, for letting me express my thoughts behind my works and also share a few about myself. And for my community, say you can be anything you want to be as long as you put in the work. So success, you shouldn't be afraid of success. Rather, you should like embrace the fact that you can be successful as an artist in this space, no matter how difficult it can be. So yeah, those are my last words.
Thank you, Father Leo, for this amazing episode.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much.
see you.
Yes. Bye bye.
To stay up to date with our latest episodes, follow us on the streaming platforms and our social networks in the description.